welcome. Lovely to see so many faces, one or two familiar ones, one or two new ones as well. I like this idea of Chris saying we're going to give it a Leicester focus, like business is any different in Leicester or something. It's a completely different way of doing business down here, apparently, compared to Nottingham. We've had an association with De Montfort for quite some time, building what's called a commercial application on the web. It's a set of courses that were, from the start, last 2 or 3 years ago, were aimed about, as Chris calls it, dynamising businesses for the web. And the idea was that a community of the users of those courses started to emerge, and we met ground zero was we met at Scruffy's, a little restaurant up in Nottingham, and there was about 10 or 15 businesses there, and we said, why don't we form some kind of community, only let's make it a little bit different, let's not make it too starchy like a sort of everybody's in it for themselves kind of traditional business networking thing. Let's kind of try and discuss some of the issues that are going to make the difference of success versus failure online, and let's try and share that amongst ourselves, and that kind of created this kind of different vibe, really. Let me introduce some people very quickly. This is Alan Napier from eChampions. Now, what's really nice about Alan, and in fact all the staff you're going to meet tonight, is that they emerged from the businesses that we worked with, and once we got some funding to be able to kind of do this, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we actually brought back some of the businesses that made changes and actually brought them back part-time to come and show you how to do it. And I'm just this sort of warm-up act for Daughter Knights branch. Waved, this is Daughter. And Daughter's worked for a company called Halsbury.com, which is a travel business that she managed to achieve quite radical growth with. We're going to learn about that tonight, and radically increase the conversion rate on the website. So the cool thing is about taking part in eChampions is that these guys, we've got funding to take this forward 2.5 years from now and actually practically help you make some of these changes. So it's not just concepts, not just sort of big esoteric stuff. We're going to be practically looking at those changes, and then if you choose to take part as what we call a full eChampion, then there's practical support from this team to try and implement that within your business, even to the point that you can roll up at our office and kind of sit amongst us and go, why won't it work? And we kind of play with it until we somehow make the thing work for you. So a little bit of background from me then very quickly before we kind of hand it over to Daughter, really. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but the web has changed. We're now seeing this kind of social media era, Web 2.0, whatever you want to call it. But we're seeing possibly the first signs of the search engines slowing down, possibly to be replaced by this social media stuff. We were at a conference on Thursday, and they were talking about Google Caffeine. Anybody heard of Google Caffeine? Ooh, well, you were there, so weren't you? I think you were, so that doesn't count. Google Caffeine is the next version of Google. They're planning another kind of major change to their algorithm. So if anybody doesn't know this, the reason why you appear in Google is based on a mathematical equation. It's not some humans having a look at it most of the time anyway. It's not some humans looking at it. A mathematical equation has a look at your website, has a look at the relationships around it, and decides where to put you in that algorithm. So if you're not sitting top, it's because Google's algorithm is not that happy, or it's not as happy as it is with your website compared to some other people's. So Google Caffeine is Google getting ready to have probably 5 or 6 times the amount of volume that Google currently has. So it's going to spider to much more depth. It's going to be massively bigger. But it's also Google getting ready to try and spider social media. Yeah, so we're seeing this huge kind of growth in social media, and what it's going to try and do is, from about February onwards, it will look at Twitter. I heard somebody saying Twitter doesn't work earlier on. Yeah? What it's going to do is, I'm not saying it does or doesn't at this point, but one thing that they're going to do is that they're going to spider Google real time. So as you look at your results and you sit there and you type something in, it throws some results back. They're saying that within 5 minutes it will have checked. So your results that you get and the Twitters that it starts to include in those results are going to be about 5 minutes old. So its model is changing quite radically. The other kind of scary thing is the free results are called organic results. Yeah? So if you're currently doing fairly well in Google, what they're saying is that from Google Caffeine onwards, you're only going to see about 20% traditional free results. 80% is going to be what? What else have we got? Video, images, maps, social media feeds like Twitter and Facebook. So we're seeing quite a kind of radical change, and search engines are trying to reorientate themselves to get ready to try and spider social media. Why? Because it's a massive threat to it. So we might have just a little look at that as we kind of go along. So really much to want to sort of plant in you this idea that actually the web is quite radically moving on and changing now, and search There's always a kind of an interest for small business as well. That's likely to see quite radical change as well. I had to do some numbers, didn't I? We always do numbers at this point. And this is all kind of ripped off from last Thursday, so you're probably smiling away at this point. 325 million members on Facebook at this point. 500 million members by December 2010. 80% of the world lives in abject poverty. 500 million of them, the rest are going to be on Facebook. What's even more frightening is the fact that South American and Hispanic countries, they don't even do Facebook. What do? All cuts. You were there, weren't you, sir? They do all cut, yeah. So this doesn't even represent the whole kind of dominant sphere of social media. Fastest growing sector, women 35 plus. So yeah, there's a lot of kids on, a lot of kids involved, and part of this program is going to be helping you try and commercialise social media. How do you get a return on that? How do you measure a return on that? Not easy to do, not easy to measure, but it is possible. 10% of all the UK sales are now online now, so people's purchasing power is increasingly kind of spent online or derived online. Twitter overtaking YouTube just about a couple of weeks ago, I think. 577% growth this year. Twitter, what we're going to do is explore, obviously, the commercial kind of benefits of that and how you can employ that. To me, it often seems quite trivial. You know, you kind of look at Twitter streams and it's, oh, I don't know whether to have peas or beans tonight, you know, with me tea. And, you know, it often has quite a sort of trivial sort of feel to it. We're going to look at how you kind of commercialise that. Obviously, that's going to be later on in the programme, really. Bing, anybody using Bing yet, search engine? Microsoft's search engine, yeah, okay. Bill Gates cites it as one of his biggest mistakes ever, is underestimating the power of search and the commercial value of it, really. So I know he's less involved these days, but they're throwing an awful lot of money into that and currently achieving about 0.5% growth. So whereas in the UK we're dominant with Google at the moment, we may well see sort of Bing coming through to quite a dominant position, or a more dominant position. Algo stands for algorithm. Google is currently changing its algorithm twice a day. So it does these major changes. There was one called Big Daddy. There's one called Jagger. And there's this one coming up called Caffeine. Yeah. So these are these major changes to their algorithm where they change the way they make decisions. They also do kind of minor changes about twice a day as well. So it's constantly a kind of shifting pattern, really. So what's driving all of this? Social media you'll be aware of. Web moving into kind of mainstream acceptance, reduction in the cost of technology. It's all these kind of things, really. Convergence, divergence, a bit of academic stuff here, really. The medias are converging online, yet we're seeing a kind of divergence into sort of niche interests. Yeah, that's a bit of a kind of clue for how we roll forward from this point in terms of marketing. It's all about identifying your niche, helping you identify your niche. So part of this, from the this is for Alan, it's sponsored by the ESF. We have to kind of say that every time. So there it's in for Alan. But part of the bid that we put in was very much focused on helping you identify new markets, helping businesses identify new markets or defend existing territories as things kind of move forward, really. And I think this is the biggest thing for me, is that I came out of my house the other day and Yellow Pages have been delivered. It's still in its cellophane. I walk round to where? My wheelie bin. Yeah. I walk around to my wheelie bin, I wave at my neighbour up the road, and I can see another line of terrace houses that I live in. There's 3 blokes chucking their Yellow Pages in the cellophane, in the recycling. The world has changed, you know. Think of a product that you bought recently that you didn't, if it's new to you, that you didn't at least first kind of Google around to see whether it was any good or not. It's that whole decision-making process. It's not necessarily at this point the amount of business, the amount of e-commerce volume that's going on. It's where the decision-making process is going.